All right, fantastic. Okay, so this workshop will not take as long as last week's workshop because we covered two marketing strategies last week, very in
Oof.
depth. Today we're going to be talking more business topics, and a little bit more personal topic because we're going to talk a lot about mindset. I believe that that is the most important and fundamental topic inside of this entire community because if we don't get this down right, we can have all of the information about the most effective marketing strategies and business models. But if we don't have the right mindset to be able to actually take action consistently, none of that information is going to matter. We're going to waste all of our time, all of our money, all of our energy just running ourselves in circles and not actually getting anywhere. So this is the most important part, I would say, in the entire community. This whole week, all the content's really been dedicated to that. And, this is square one. Without this foundation, you cannot build a house. It's going to crumble. So that being said, we've prepped some questions and, well, had some questions prepped for us of that people wanted to ask us about how we have done exactly this here on the screen, how we've balanced life, business, and art, because there are a lot of things that go on. I was talking with Seth about this just before we started the workshop
Yeah.
because we were talking about how, if you're balancing the things everybody else already is in life, whether that's your career or a business, if you own a business, and then you're also balancing your relationships, trying to find downtime. And then on top of all that, you're trying to do music.
So, real quick, short story, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, my life has always been hectic, all of it, especially after I decided to pick up music as my life, I wanted to dedicate my life to music. So, knowing that, I cast aside everything and everyone to make sure I hit my goal. And I did that way for almost 25 years and realized that's not working. My life is miserable. And then, trying, we'll talk a little bit more, but, realizing that balancing your life in accordance to making sure you understand what's important, I actually get a lot more done now and feel better about what I do.
Yeah. I love that because I was typing this out earlier in my notes for one of the courses we're going to be doing. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gary Vee, but this is like the godfather of digital marketing for this whole generation. Like everybody that has a YouTube channel to market any type of business or content or anything, it all started with Gary Vee. He started this YouTube channel for his dad's wine company and took his dad's wine company from just a couple $100,000 a year to millions and millions of dollars. But it took him years of making content with nobody watching for that to happen. And some of the things he says are a little bit paradoxical, like they sound opposite or contradictory, but he's very, very good at being balanced in the middle. So an example is one of the clips that made him go viral is he was standing on stage at a marketing seminar and he was like, all of you young people out there, if you want this, if you want to be rich, if you want the private jets and the sports cars and you want the bling bling, you got to do the effing work. And that was his thing for a while, is do the effing work. But then he came back later on and he said, if I could change anything about my message and how I became successful, it's getting myself away from hustle culture because it can be so toxic. People are like, oh, you got to stay up for 3 days in a row and do this and sacrifice this. And he said, if you just save a little bit, if you're trying to save up for something you're buying or building a business or investing into your music career, and you get paid $100, spend 90 of it and save 10.
Yeah.
And he's really big on expanding the time horizon for your success, realizing you don't have to do everything in one
Today.
week. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't have to do everything today. Expand the time horizon and live your life, allow yourself to have an enjoyable life, and it's going to make the journey so much easier and it's going to help you be consistent. So I love that you said that. And that being said, we'll dive in right into our first question. So how do you set limits between work and personal life to avoid that burnout? Because you mentioned it, your life got miserable. How do you set those limits to know, okay, I am being productive in my business and getting enough done, but I'm also giving myself enough off time to spend time with my family and do other things.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily do a 5 day work week. I do essentially 6 with 2 half days off. So, and the way in my mind is I've worked, I know what days I have to be at the studio or I have to be wherever I need to be. But I also know what days are the least productive here and nothing really happens. So I utilize the slow time to just not, I don't need to make that money there or try to make that money there. But the setting the limits as far as finding when my time is, I there's a few things. Number one, I listen to my body.
Yeah.
My body will tell me when I'm almost done. I'm just about finished. I'm ready to go. Sometimes I don't I want to push more, but I don't because I know I'm at my mental limit. Um, uh, uh, as far as listen to the other people in your life, and I've been married for almost 18 years. Luckily married to a wonderful woman who's been very patient with me through this entire process of business and music and such. But listening to those people around you and taking the cues. Hey, you want to go out this weekend? Hey, can we do this or that? Hey, so and so's missed you a while. You miss when you're rushing and hustling. You miss those cues a lot. And when you keep your ear open for those, that's when you know you've reached your limit. Maybe you need to scale back a bit.
Yeah.
As for I know that's probably not a very great determiner, but if you get to that point, you've already pushed it too far.
Yeah.
But that's a good way of knowing when how you need to scale back.
Well, no one would criticize you if you were taking a road trip and you decided to stop for gas. It would be
No,
silly to say, you know what, I'm going to keep pushing on, even though the car's on low fuel. I know I can do this. You're going to run out of gas. You can't force the car to go farther than the amount of gas that you have in the tank. And so you have to make pulling over and making those pit
a
stops,
priority.
fuel up. Yeah, you have to make that part of the trip. So something that I did, because when I was starting my business, I would do these big like sprints. So I would work for 3 days. Literally, I'm not exaggerating here. I would work for 3 days because I was working a manual labor job during the day and then building my business at night. I would work for 3 days without sleeping. I
Mm-hmm.
would not sleep at all. And it was miserable. And then what would happen is for like a full week, I didn't get anything done.
Yeah,
So I
because
would
you
take a week
had to
off and then
recover.
do a 3 day sprint, week off, 3 days. And I felt so unhealthy because it was like just by the time I recovered after that week, it was time to do it all again. It was time to go back down into
Yeah,
the depths. And
listening to your body is important.
yes, so what I've realized is all of those things I considered at first to be unproductive. And as cold as it might sound, spending time with friends and family, spending time with your significant other, spending time with your kids, if you have kids, taking time to go out into nature or, whatever hobby it is that you like to do, which for us,
Relax, play games,
exactly, even as a
just
music
taking your
artist,
mind off of it.
yeah, even as a music artist, it's not always music that's the hobby.
Now,
So
yeah,
do other things, and sleep is a huge one. Make sleep part of the work schedule. And that's the way I think about it mentally now, is sleep is part of my work schedule. Because I used to hate sleep. I was like, oh man, I wish I could never have to sleep. I get so much done. But now I realize when my sleep is better, I get more done throughout the week. And that's where we have to think about expanding the time frame of productivity, because I might feel like I got a ton of stuff done today or tomorrow, but it screws the whole rest of my week if my
yeah.
sleep's not good. And there are a lot of biological factors that play into our productivity and our ability to get things done that we're often very not aware of or not educated on. And simply drinking enough water and getting enough sleep can literally change your life. It's crazy. So
I need to
that's
drink more water.
yeah, me too. I got one here.
I got mine here. Yeah.
So you've worked with, how many artists do you think you've worked with over the last 10 plus years? Or
Uh,
20?
I think my client list is somewhere in the thousands at
Yeah.
the very least.
So
I've worked
working
with a
with
lot
all
of them.
those people, what mental issues, issues, what mental issues do you see artists facing most frequently, and how do you believe they can start to deal with those early on?
Um, what are the issues they have most common as far as what? Sorry.
Their mental health, like what blockages do you see artists facing when it comes to
Okay.
anything to do with mental health?
One thing I'll start here. One thing I noticed everybody uh has that term writer's block. Okay, and that is a not you don't have writer's block. My uncle had gave me a because I he's an artist too. He's actually not a music artist, but he's a physical form, painting artist essentially. And you know, mentally, your mind is not blocked. You can't. It's not that it can't create. It's just you've run out of reasons to create, if that makes sense. So you need to fill. He put it to me this way. This will probably make way more sense. He said your mind's a gas tank, and that goes along with the gas tank we were talking about earlier. But you're when you were first, wanting to do music or pursuing any kind of thing that you were really excited about, you were so excited about it, and your gas tank was full, and you were full of influences, and you listened to everything you possibly could and said, "Oh, I think I can do something that's just like this or better." Your gas tank was full. If you're working on projects and making songs and you're spent, your gas tank's empty. You're thinking you don't have any ideas, but you do. You just need to refill that gas tank. So stop. And I tell these to artists all the time, stop, maybe stop recording and focus on another part of, obviously there's tons of part of your business that you can focus on during that time, and consume, absorb. I can't hear you, Shawn. You may have muted.
I was muted. I was just listening to your valuable input there.
Yeah, so that's one thing I do see a lot. The block. You've got to reabsorb. Start listening to new music. Go and find things. Go and discover new stuff. Even if you hate it, at least you know what you like or don't like.
Yeah.
So another thing I turn away from is not turn away from, but I do notice people having bad days in the studio. You know, things didn't go their way. They had a vision of how this song was going to turn out, and it didn't happen. Bro, that doesn't mean dump the song. That doesn't mean that the song's bad. It doesn't mean that, and that can set you back. That could take you two steps back, and you may not want to record again or whatever be the case. But mentally, that does have take a toll on you. That just means one of a few things. You may need to rework the song. You may need to rethink of how to approach it. You may need to just have the day off, and you may be working too much on trying to create music. Again, take that break. Those can help. And but when first starting out as an artist, you're full of ideas and creativity.
Yeah.
And it just comes out naturally. And then once you've done maybe 10, 12, 20, 30, 100 songs, it becomes business. Make it fun again.
I think part of the issue too is with artistry, it's usually a form of expression. It's an outlet
Mm-hmm.
for us to deal with and manage the emotions that we're experiencing. Also, if you hear some type of weird noise, I'm outside because I'm focusing on my mental health too.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a form of expression and it's an outlet for us. And oftentimes we want that to be some form of a successful career that we can begin earning from.
Mm-hmm.
But we forget that in order to make that happen, there's more to it than just creating the music. And I think some artists get burnt out because they're pouring their heart and soul into their artwork.
Yeah.
but then they're not doing anything to market it so that it is able to connect with the people that are going to resonate with their message the most. And so there aren't really many people listening to the message. As valuable as it might be, as much as they might connect to it, it's not hitting enough ears. And anybody would start to lose hope, over a long enough
Absolutely.
time. And even if you don't lose hope, right? Even if you don't, if you just keep making music for those same 10 people or 500 people or 10,000 people forever, right? Imagine how many more people you would be able to connect with and help if you were effectively marketing your music and your brand. So,
Can I go ahead? I was just going to tag off of what you just said there.
yeah, really quick.
Go
So,
for it.
just to wrap that up, what I would say is a great way that they can deal with that early on is to understand if full-time artistry is something I want to pursue. I need
Yes.
to realize there's more to it than just creating the music. There are other things that I need to do that, just like you said, I can go with the ebb and flow. And when I'm not in a creative mode, I can focus on my marketing. I can
Yeah.
focus on, a million other things, like you said. I could design some merch. I could get on and message some people to do some collaborations. There are so many different things that you could do.
Tons of things. Now, really quick to just go off of what you said, keep in mind that and here's something that I've always I used to lose value, and even as an engineer, I try and make sure I try to remember, even if your stuff isn't being heard by as many people as you'd like, your art still has value. Don't devalue your work because you think that that's what it's worth. Make sure that you value your work just as much as anyone else's that you're consuming.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to jump on to the next question unless you had anything to add here, because I don't want to keep people as long as
No, I think we're there.
Great. All right. How do you make sure that artists that you work with have a good support system for their mental health? This is easy.
Oh no, I don't know if about
We're,
that.
we're
Easy.
doing it. Yeah, we're doing it now. Building community. I think the Independence
That's true.
Project is
That's true.
how we're trying to do that. And
Well,
obviously, because of the way we're building it, because we want to do this in real time, the way that we're teaching other people, we didn't blast off some big marketing campaign. We
no.
want people. I said it on the last live. We had just Primo, right? Primo's dope. Primo just live
Yeah, good dude.
last time, right? And we were talking about how we're glad that we're kicking off slower so that
Mm-hmm.
when we get to the point where, because we've seen it time and time again, I've seen it with all the clients I've worked with, you've seen it with artists you've worked with. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
sees this stage, right? Nobody sees the stage with two people in the Zoom
The
workshop,
early work, man.
right? They all see when like 500 people are in there and everybody's filling out the school community and everything, and everybody's in there and it's going crazy. And then they look at that and they're like, oh, that must be nice. But what I
Yeah.
love about this is we're documenting the whole process so that people are able to see the early days too. So that being said, I think that that's a perfect reason why the school community is a great place for artists to be, to interact with other artists that are at the same stage. And you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to see the school community itself grow in the same way in real time. Like we're starting
Yes.
right now, right here. We've got two people on the Zoom.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Well, also, I mean, it's important, sometimes I ask, I mean, as an artist, it's hard for you to get support from family members and friends and such. I mean, most time in most scenarios, my own mother was a singer and a performer. She didn't want me performing and singing and being an artist. She knew how hard it was. Me, I just thought she was being a jerk, but I get it now, But make sure that you surround yourself with people, and if you're if you're not on the community in school, and not yet, or at least try and engage with people, like-minded people in real life. Go to shows, engage with people one-on-one, and that also helps you build up a society as well.
Yeah. I'm going to jump back into something here from a course that I recorded earlier this week, which will be dropping soon. And I was talking exactly about what you just said, even outside of the school community, I was touching on the topic of accountability and building that support network.
Hmm.
I said, surround yourself with the right people at the right times. So a good
Yeah.
example of this, and I go through all of these in the course, but I'll just use this perfect example right here because this one is huge. When you are creating, you want to surround yourself with those yes men, those energetic people. You want the people in the studio with you, if you have anyone in the studio with you, right?
Yeah.
You want to have the people in the studio with you that are going to go crazy no matter what you do. You could like make a weird noise in the microphone and go and they're going to go crazy, right? You
Yeah.
want that creative energy to be present. So when you're creating, you want to be around energetic people, but when you are critiquing, that's when you want to surround yourself with those thoughtful people. The people that are really going to sit down and take a step back and listen to your music and give you an honest, constructive feedback. Not people that are
Yeah.
just going to tear it apart and be jerks, but people
Hmm.
that will give you that constructive criticism. And so I oftentimes don't see people utilizing those relationships in the right way. They'll have both kinds
Yeah.
of people in the same rooms, and then you'll see their energy gets torn because they're not using their relationships in the right way. Your relationships are a resource and they are an asset. So bring those yes people into the studio, and then those more thoughtful people that give you the honest feedback. Those are the people you want to go to for critique.
Hmm.
Say, hey, what do you think about this track? What do you think about XYZ, whatever I'm doing?
Put
So
yourself in different mindsets as well.
yeah, take that relationship inventory and see who's filling those different roles for you. And if
Check us
there is no one, if you're a loner and you're an introvert and you're like, I don't want to do that,
We got people
that's
here.
yeah, exactly, and that's completely fine. But you're going to be able to grow a lot faster with that support network. And I would say, as an artist, start trying to fill those relationship positions like a job position. Post on social media and be like, hey, I'm looking for a hype man. Hey, I'm looking for somebody to critique my music. Hey, I'm looking for, whatever it is that you're looking for, put it out there.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
All right. What daily habits do you recommend to help artists stay motivated and avoid procrastination?
Okay. Try and wake up at the same time every day. Number one. Okay. And have a routine. I'll tell you what. I have to have a routine. Getting up. I wake up. Maybe it might not be the same time, but it's around the same time pretty much every day. I get my coffee, get my, after I have my coffee, go take my shower, go brush my teeth, yada, yada, yada. And now I'm ready to step out the door.
Yeah.
So I know if I don't do those things, I'm either in bed longer than I should be. I'm sitting watching TV for, 45 extra minutes, before walking out, getting to work. So having a routine definitely helps me to stay motivated and helps me get to that whatever that next thing I need to do.
Yeah.
Personally, I am my ADHD runs wild. So if I don't make a note immediately, I'll forget it, and that'll be that. So using Siri to hey, take this note for me. Hey, make this list. Now I'm trying to start to get into AI a little bit, so I'm gonna try and start using that, but doing things in that moment right then and there. I heard a good term. They said, put it away, don't put it down.
Yeah.
So take that and apply that to whatever your task is. Okay, if you're mid something and you're not motivated enough or something like that, make sure you set it up so this way you can come back to it in a way that's efficient for you.
Mm.
Don't take the song, write the lyrics, and get halfway through and stuff it under somewhere you'll never see it. Put it out in front of on your nightstand where you'll come back to it and see it.
Yeah.
Make a list. I'm always making lists of things that need to work, need to be done next. Have other people hold you accountable.
Yep.
Definitely doing that. So as far as and consistency, if you do things often and you turn it into it'll turn into a habit.
Right.
You have no choice. What does it say? It takes how long to turn something into a habit?
Some people say 26 days, some people
Yeah.
say 90, there's a bunch of different inputs on that, but
But you can try it and figure out which
yes.
works for yourself, But
Yeah.
I'm sure that good habits are formed by doing it, just
Right.
forcing yourself to do it daily.
So this is where we're gonna differ a little bit, right?
Mm.
And this is why I think it's beautiful though. So one of my business mentors gave me an example, because something that gets really big online is these millionaire morning routines, right?
Hmm.
Where people will be like, "This is the morning routine of this millionaire," or how this people lives, their life or their day or something like that. And so, what he said is the problem with this is all I need is for that competitor of mine to not wake up and have their morning coffee or to have their morning run, and their whole day is screwed up. That's the best competitor to possibly have. And he said, my goal isn't to have this rigid schedule for me. My goal is to be able to be just as productive if everything goes wrong in my day and I'm on the side of a mountain as I am in my office and everything goes right. And that completely changed my perspective on things, because what it did was alleviate the stress for me, because I was super rigid like that with my OCD.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I got to do this at this time. And this is like, I plan my whole day out. And if I would miss one thing, I would get super stressed. And I'm like, oh, now I'm behind. I'm late. I'm here. I'm there, whatever it is. And it would screw me up. So then I realized, like, as long as I get the stuff done, man, like, there are no rules. Like,
No.
that's it. There's no rules. I just got to
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
stuff done. And so he's really big on that, of saying, I don't give myself or other people any rules. As long as you get the things that you need to get done. That's what's most important. So for me, what allows me to do that, my biggest habit is more internal. It's less than physical things. And that's not saying like what you said as far as
Hmm.
up at the same time, going to bed at the same time, like we talked about, drinking enough water, getting out and doing all these activities. All of those things are great and you absolutely should do those. But I think the most important thing for me has been simple introspection. Getting into the habit of every 30 minutes asking myself, how do I want to wake up tomorrow? If I catch myself scrolling through social media, do I want to wake up tomorrow stressed with all of the work I was supposed to do yesterday looming ahead of me? Or do I want to wake up tomorrow being like, yeah, I crushed that yesterday? You know what I mean? I put my phone down, I got the stuff done, and I did what I needed to do. Who do I want to wake up as tomorrow?
Yeah.
And that's the
Great way to
habit
take it.
that I've tried to get into is, every like 30 minutes. And when I started doing this, I was working throughout the day, and I literally set an alarm on my phone that would go off every 30 minutes. And when that alarm would go off, I would pause and I would ask myself, where are my thoughts? What am I allowing myself to think about right now? Am I depressed because of things in the past? Am I anxious because of things in the future? Am I thinking about me? Am I focused on me, or am I focused on the bigger picture, the bigger goals? Are my thoughts productive? Is what I'm working on, is whatever I'm doing right now working toward those goals? Is that productive? You know? So just pausing to ask myself every 30 minutes or so what that is, and where I'm at, is a really huge and very important habit for me.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a great way. I mean, you could go either way, but if you, no matter what way you do it, you're still sticking to
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Even if you have no plan or whatever be the case, you're still holding yourself accountable
Right.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that probably sounds so crazy for you to hear me say, because when you go in the appointments thing and see my calendar, like everything is scheduled out.
Scheduled, yeah.
But the reason I'm able to stick to that and get so much done is because it's not this factor of me feeling like, you know, this is the rigid way I have to do it and everything. It's just like, this is what works. You know,
Now,
after you do something for a while and see the results of it working, more money in your bank account, more energy in your body, you're happier, you're healthier, you got more streams, for artists, you got more streams, you got more revenue coming in, whatever the case might be. Once you actually see the results, it gets addicting. Like, you don't
yeah,
want to change. People say it about the gym all the time. They go for a little while, they look in the mirror and they see their body change, and then they get addicted and they want to keep doing it.
yeah, I need to see my body change. Yeah. But
All right.
yeah, that I mean, both of those techniques work, and they're really excellent, I think. And as rigid as my schedule sounds, it's really not that rigid.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so before we move on to this next question, I'll park right here real quick and I'll go back into some of the course material. So also, I talk about prioritizing and time management.
Hmm.
So another thing Alex talked about, because it would drive me crazy sometimes when I was trying to work on something creative and I would have a meeting pop up or some other task that I didn't want to do pop up that day. And I never really understood why. I figured it was just me being unproductive or ADHD or whatever the case is. And he said the way we run our company is that we give people maker time and manager time. And the difference is maker time, you need those big blocks blocked off like the whole day for you to be able to sit and just focus and create. And it could be a 4-hour block or an 8-hour, whatever works for you is the big thing. What works for you. So that during that maker time, that creative time, if you're writing a song, if you're producing a beat, if you're figuring out the concept for your next album or project, all of those creative tasks, coming up with a social media content calendar, whatever those things are, make sure those are separate from the manager time, the shorter, quick tasks. Like I need to set up this account. I need to call this person. I need to message these people, because the manager time is less about creating and more about getting stuff done. I need to send this message. I need to build this campaign. I need to set up this account. I need to do all these different things. And sometimes when we blend those, we're less productive because our brain can't switch back and forth between the two. It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to be able to switch fully over from one mode to the other. So they leverage that knowledge, that psychology to understand like, hey, these are our meeting days. These are our communication days. And these other times, like this is when we're creating. So I've started to do that in my calendar as well, where even with these workshops, I try to do all my meetings Thursdays and Fridays. And everything else, I'm getting work done. I'm doing the creative stuff, I'm building, I'm doing whatever the actual work is. So ultimately, and I think people will see this from the two different perspectives we've presented, is you have to just do what works for you.
Yeah.
Figure out what works for you. If it's working all through the night and making sure you still get enough sleep, waking up later in the day, if your job permits for that or your lifestyle permits for that. Don't let other people make you feel bad for that, because all the guys that you see on Instagram are like, oh, you got to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and build 27 businesses. And, don't let those people make you feel bad. Do what works for you and be consistent with that, and you'll always win. There have been several presidents of the United States that have woken up at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon because they worked all night. So don't let people fool you into thinking you've got to wake up before the sun comes up to be productive. Do whatever's
a little bit along my lines. I don't wake up first thing in the morning. I just don't do well, but I stay up late and I get lots done.
Yeah. All right. So we'll breeze through these next couple questions. How can artists balance their creative work with business tasks without getting stressed? I think we touched on that a little bit, which is why we'll be able to move through this quicker. But what do you think?
I think you touched on a lot of the points there. Just making sure you compartmentalize those pieces, they're your creative tasks and then your business tasks. Maybe set up a couple of days, just like you do in your schedule, set up a couple of days for creative, and then the rest of the time you're working on your business. Business tasks. Usually I kind of like set off a portion of the day or the night just because I know nobody's awake at midnight, 1 o'clock. That's when I do most of my creative stuff. And I get most of my creative stuff done. So I usually set that aside.
Yeah. So I want to make this section a little bit interactive, because I think I shared with the maker and manager time what I would probably say about this topic myself. But for non-binary cheeseburger or for Seth, if either of you want to hop off and tell me like what your daily schedule looks like, I want to break this down in a very realistic way. For what an artist's schedule might actually look like day to day, if they've got a job or they've got a relationship, they've got school, whatever the case is. So if one of you wants to come off mute and tell us what your daily schedule is like, and we could break this down, I would love that.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I have a really hectic schedule. I work 7 days a week. All from the morning. I wake up at 6 o'clock or sometimes 5 o'clock and get myself up. Sometimes I go get Dunkin' if I have time. Sometimes I'll just go without breakfast. But go from 7 all the way till 5 or 3:30 on the weekdays, 5 till the weekends. And every other week I try to hit the studio throughout the week, throughout my time working or whenever I find myself have a free period or in a creative burst. Usually write down what I can and just sing out loud, always practice, never not practice, because you could always have improvement and room for improvement no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You're never perfect no matter what, but I always try to go and just take my day one step at a time. Whenever I do have availability to go to the studio, I go to the studio, try to get at least 3 hours in, since I don't go as often. But I usually do that on Fridays too, because I know Fridays are my least busiest days, and they're mostly the end of the weeks. Everyone ends work at the end of the week. Everyone doesn't really want to do stuff, and they're lazy. I usually try to find a creative outburst at that end of the week, so that way I could push out all the rest of my energy and start a week fresh and brand new with a creative burst.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's basically an essential week of my artist life.
Awesome. Thank you for breaking that down.
Thank you.
So you said, so you're waking up like 5 or 6 and then you go to work, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so like, what are your work hours typically?
So usually my work hours on the weekdays are from 7 to 3:30,
Okay.
are usually 4 o'clock the latest. And then the weekends are from 7 to like 5 or 4.
Okay. So the weekdays you're working until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. And then what did you say for the weekends again?
Oh, sorry. The weekdays I'm working from 3:30 till 3:30 to 4 in the afternoon. And the
Okay,
weekends I'm working 4 to 5.
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. So pretty much any day you work, the latest you're gonna work is like 5 p.m.
Basically.
Okay, gotcha. So from 5 p.m. for the rest of the day, how do you usually fill that time?
Just try to get myself in a positive mindset. Usually on the Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I go to the gym.
Okay.
Nice.
I'll try to get a hour session in. It doesn't really have to be long. You can do 30. It's whatever your body entails. Just like how DeeCee was just saying, whenever you feel that mental exhaustion or that physical exhaustion, you just don't always try to over push yourself, or else you might hurt yourself or strain yourself. So just know your own limits and then just go from there. So usually try to get myself an hour in, do what I can, and then just rest and go home, eat dinner, and either watch some TV, or I try to get a little bit of creativity, get a little bit of writing down, listen to my music, maybe even get some ideas for what my next TikTok's gonna be, make a TikTok video for my TikTok videos for next week or the next day. And then basically just relax, play video games, and watch TV and call it a night.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool.
my
Yeah.
night, I will say my night does consist of me ending around like 10 o'clock as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Up early.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because if you're waking up at 5, you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep. So cool. Okay, because a lot of people, they'll feel like, and I'm not saying this is in your case, because you broke everything down for us, and I know you're one of the guys. You were probably the worst person to ask because you're in the community. I know you're like super dedicated to what you're doing, so I know you're making time for it. And we've had several conversations one-on-one too. But for a lot of people that I've had conversations with, they'll tell me like, oh, I just don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that or whatever. And we look and we break down their schedule. And ultimately, they have like 3 or 4 hours of their day that they're just pissing down the drain. And it's typically because, this procrastination, ultimately what it is. And DeeCee, you and I have had several conversations about this.
Yeah.
Let me make sure this isn't like the next question or something. What are some signs that Okay, yeah. You know what? This does bleed into it because I know we're pretty
Yeah.
close to 8 o'clock, and I wanna. So, signs and artists might be struggling with their mental health. So it would be things like that, right? Like, oh, I don't have enough time because ultimately they're really just procrastinating
Mhm.
or doing something similar to procrastinating. And this is what most people do when they get to this like second stage, but they don't know it exists. It's called action faking. And action faking is when we do all of these busy tasks that aren't really the things we should do to push the needle forward. So what does that look like? Well, it could be like, oh, I'm conceptualizing my next album when you haven't even marketed your first song. I'm making a logo for my merch. I'm like I'm making more cover art for my future projects. Like you're doing all these things for whatever you want to do in the future because you're like, well, this is eventually going to need to get done. So technically it's productive, but it's not really the thing that's ultimately going to give you the results you're looking for. And the reason we do action faking and procrastination is because it's ultimately because we have this deeply rooted fear of failure.
Mhm.
We put a task off because we're afraid that if we try it, we're going to fail. And for music artists, the reason that's so much more difficult is because most of us, whether it's that we want to be a big superstar or we just want to do music full time, whatever the case is, or we just want other people to simply enjoy our music and we're afraid they won't like it, whatever that might be, the fear there is, what if I put 100% effort into this? What if I actually do everything I'm supposed to do? I put the content out, I market my music, I push hard for this song, 100%, all the effort I can for 3 months on this song, and I fail. I don't get any streams. I don't get views. I don't get any followers. No labels call me. Like nothing that I want to see happen happens. And actually, the opposite happens. People are in my comments and they're hating on me. They're saying it sucks. They don't like my voice. My lyrics are bad, whatever the case is, right? If we were to do that and that was going to be the result, it would feel like we're crushing our biggest dream in front of ourselves at real time.
Yeah.
So your brain's way of protecting you from that is procrastination or action faking. It's like, well, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. Big things coming soon, guys. Big things coming
Big
soon.
things coming soon.
Don't be the big things coming soon guy. Don't be that person. Just show people, because everybody does this nowadays. Everybody talks and nobody cares what people say anymore. They just want to see the results. Just
Yeah.
hustle, just work, put the work in, do the work that matters, and the results will speak for themselves. So when you're encountering that fear, you have to realize, number one, that's a very realistic possibility. You could
Yeah.
put everything you have into one song, marketing it effectively, and inside the school community, where we'll be talking about that effective release marketing strategy, marketing one track or project for 8 to 12 weeks, right? Not like all these TikTokers are saying you got to put a song up every single week, right? Because they randomly went viral and they can't even duplicate it for themselves, but now they want to teach everyone else how to do it, which is crazy. So if you do everything you're supposed to do 100% and you don't get that result, that's a very realistic possibility. Unfortunately, it's a very realistic possibility that there's a car horn going off in the background while I'm trying to make a Zoom
You know,
workshop.
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes. So if you accept that, let's do a thought exercise here of consequence measuring. If I put 100% into this song for 3 months and I fail completely, versus I don't do anything, which outcome am I most afraid of? Am I most afraid of doing nothing and just doing all this busy work for the rest of my life, which means I'm never going to be successful? That's 100% surefire way to never be successful outside of an absolute miracle from God.
Mhm.
I'm never going to be successful. I'm just going to be at this stage I'm at right now forever of just dreaming about it. And I'm not saying this to be crass. This is an actual psychological term. It's called mental masturbation. It's so much easier to just fantasize and imagine or watch other people go on YouTube or even sit in workshops like this and do this all the time. I'm consuming content. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm becoming better, but not doing the work that matters. So is that outcome of never changing, never growing, never achieving your goals more fearful for you than, what if I try this once and I fail? Am I going to quit, or am I just going to keep trying again until it works? Because the person that's willing to try and fail over and over and over again until they win is ultimately the person that's
Going to
always
get further.
win. Exactly. Because if it's not part of your identity, and I always pose this question when I'm doing like business coaching, right? Let's say you launch this campaign, or let's say you market this song and you fail. Are you going to quit? And 98% of people, the 2% that say yes, I would say then you should just quit now. Like, what's the point? But those 98% of people say no. And so my question is, okay, what are you afraid of then? Get through this failure. Like Thomas Edison said, I had to learn 1,000 ways how to not make a light bulb before I found the way to make the light bulb. And I say this quote all the time. People hear me say it all the time. The master has failed more times than the quitter ever even tried. It's one of my favorite quotes. Because I think for you and I, DeeCee, that really defines a lot of our journey. We've been failure after failure after failure, and hopes up and down, and the weight never gets lighter. You just become stronger, so it becomes easier to carry.
I tell everybody says that, oh man, you're great at what you do. You're amazing. My response is, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm just doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Flying by my pants.
So what should they do about it? Well, I'll break this down because we talked about procrastination and fear and everything else. I know we're a little bit over time because we started late, but I think that's okay. Our 2 viewers are still here.
Nice.
So there's a book that I recommend in the course that's linked in the school community called Atomic Habits by James Clear, that you can find the audiobook for free on YouTube. And if you listen to it on double speed, you can get through it in like 3 hours. 3 hours, it could potentially change your life. And he talks about why certain people seem to just be able to accomplish everything they set themselves out for at an elite level, while a majority of the population just seems to have all these New Year's resolutions or these great dreams and ideas, and they never do any of it. Why does that happen? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And he works through this mental framework of 3 layers that people think in. People think in outcomes, habits, and identity. Most people think in terms of outcomes. I want this many streams on my song. I want this many fans. I want to make this amount of money. I want to be famous. I want this outcome, this house, this car, this relationship. This is the outcome I want. Few people get to the next level, which is realizing that if I want this outcome, there are actions I need to take or habits I need to develop in order to get to that point. And so those people are like, okay, if I want 6-pack abs, I need to work out and change the way I eat. Okay, if I want this many streams on my song, I need to make TikToks. Okay, if I want to make this much money, I need to work harder, right? However, people at that level will oftentimes know exactly what it is that they need to do, but they won't do it. And it's like with the action faking we talked about. I know what it is that I need to do, but I'm not doing it. Why is that? And it's because they never get to the final level, which is identity. And he explains the identity level very beautifully with the example of an Olympic athlete. And he says Olympic athletes don't wake up and try to be fit every day. They are fit because they wake up and their identity is, I am an athlete. And because I'm an athlete, this is the way that I live. I wake up, I train, I eat this way. This is the way that I live because this is my identity. And a lot of times as music artists, we don't really do that. We say, oh, it's a hobby or whatever, because we know we don't really have the streams we want and the followers we want. So we don't want people to think we're taking it too seriously, or else we're going to look like a failure. So, oh, it's a hobby. I do this, right? Oh, I need to take it more seriously, and things like that. A lot of us do that. And it's this pride barrier, and it's this fear barrier, right? And it's because we haven't truly accepted it as part of our identity. We don't wake up every day and say, I am a music artist. That's who I am. It's part of who I am. Even if we have those conversations, we usually don't like fully accept that reality. And so our life isn't engineered for success in that area because it's not part of our identity. We don't wake up every day like Seth talked about and think, when I get home tonight, it's just part of my daily routine to make content because I'm a music artist. So that's what I do. Why would I not do that? I'm a music artist. It just makes sense. It's my identity. And so the way we overcome the action faking, the fear, the procrastination, all of those mental barriers that hold us back is to really confront that lack of identity. Whatever it is that we feel like we're not good enough in, And I get into a little bit of spiritual concepts in the courses. And people can do with that what they will. If you want to replace God with the universe or whatever works for you, or science, that's fine. But I think these concepts hold a lot of truth. And I'll say this and then I'll shut up and we can move on and wrap up. But ultimately, insecurity and fear are a form of pride, because you have been created as a music artist with a unique gifting, a talent, an ability, and you have a purpose in your life to use that skill that you've been gifted with in a way that allows you to express greatness in the world, whether that's through entertaining people, getting the party going, making sad music and helping people get through heartbreak, whatever your lane is, or maybe you do it all. That is your unique gifting, a skill set, and it's part of your purpose here on earth. Whether you believe God or the universe or science gave it to you, you've been gifted with that. Exactly. And so for God to create you with that and say you were created perfectly for this journey, and you to look back at him and say, I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
I think you're wrong. I'm not good enough. You know, XYZ about me is not good enough. I don't look good enough. I'm not smart enough. My voice isn't good enough. My songs aren't good enough. I'm not good enough. I know you created me for this. I was literally born for this, but I think you're wrong and I'm not good enough. It's pride, but we think it's insecurity. Insecurity is pride in disguise. And what does every spiritual practice on earth talk about? Humility.
Mm-hmm.
Those who are proud are humbled, but those who are humble are exalted. So if you constantly succumb to your insecurities and you allow your fears and insecurities to prevent you from taking action, you are consistently going to be humbled by the universe for not taking action, by not being successful.
Great way of putting it. Can I real quick, I just want to just in this section off, adding on to what you were saying, there may be as an artist, you see other artists, okay, out on the internet and in forums and all that stuff. It's hard to not run into an artist, but I have to remind people a lot. You're in the minority. Not everyone can do this.
Right.
You have been gifted to be able to do this, or you worked hard to be able to do this, or a combination of both.
Yeah.
So you know, you really need to step back and understand that you are special in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And you need to continue on that path regardless.
Yep. With great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben said it best. And being gifted in music is a power that you do have to be responsible with, because there's some way you're supposed to use that, you know?
Yeah.
I think we talked. The next question is, how can artists find time for self-care even with a busy schedule? I think we addressed that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we did.
You know, just make sure it's part of your work schedule. Refreshing yourself and fueling up, it's part of the work in order for you to stay productive. What role do you think teamwork and collaboration play in helping artists manage stress and stay creative? I think we
talked about that too.
Yeah, definitely. I think we touched on that too.
But you know,
we jumped ahead with some of our questions.
You know, putting the right people around you, and you know, just making sure you've got the right motivators at those right times.
Absolutely. Well, all of these concepts we dive into, or I dive into a lot more in depth inside of this business introduction course inside of the community. Not all of the modules have been released yet. The next modules will be business planning and productivity, but this is going to be the foundation of all of the business models and marketing content that we talk about. So what we discussed today had more to do with mindset and productivity. But inside of that course, we also get into what I call the physics of business and business planning. So I'll be breaking down a business strategy, a business plan that I actually built for a multi-billion-dollar green energy corporation that was one of my clients about 2 years ago. And I interpret that to how major labels are using those same frameworks in that business model for their artists, and how you can leverage those as an independent artist as well. So everything in these 4 pillars right here And I know I've said this like 4 times, but I want to stress it again. This is the foundation of everything else we're going to talk about. To me, this is the most important week in the community, is this mindset week, because this is what's going to keep you going and help you take action on everything we teach. So with that being said, we always like to open up the floor for questions and answers at the end. I know we did probably take a little bit longer than we were planning on, but I saw Mr. or Mrs. Hamburger dropped a fire emoji and a thumbs up a little while ago.
What's up, non-binary hamburger? Is it a cheeseburger?
It's a cheeseburger. Are you comfortable coming off mute and talking to us? Are you comfortable coming off mute and talking to us? Maybe not.
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's all right.
It's okay. Cheeseburgers don't talk.
Not a good time right now, but I'm listening.
Sweet, sweet.
Being on, all good,
Dope. Well, Seth, I mean, if you had anything that you wanted to share, because a lot of people are going to see this when we post this. We always post the live workshops on our YouTube so that artists can access this even if they miss it, and we could spread the information we're sharing out to artists all over the world. So did you have any questions or any comments that you wanted to make for whoever's going to see this?
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment. I would, out of everything here today in the seminar, I would definitely say take one step at a time. Take everything collectively, strengthen and fortify your mindset no matter what happens around you, no matter what mental mind games might come your way. As long as you keep looking forward and in that one directional path of what you want to do, then nothing honestly can back you down from what you're doing. Just don't push yourself to the point where you feel like there's nothing else to do, because you'll always have that one thing to fall back on. That's really it.
Yeah, thank you for that, because that's what we were talking about before. And I was supposed to pause and ask him when we got to that question, but we were riffing so much that I forgot. So I'm glad that I asked that. But I know DeeCee probably has some sessions to catch up on. He's still a busy businessman running his studio. But if we don't have any other questions or comments, we'll wrap this session up. I want to thank you both for being here. There's Gage, our engineer in the back, one of our engineers.
Yeah, he just snuck back in here.
All right. Sweet. Well, everybody have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful weekend with the weekend coming up, and we'll keep you updated on the courses. And Mr. Cheeseburger, go ahead and join the school, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of info there. All right, y'all.
All right. Have a good night.
You